Some people restart Arabic every single Ramadan. They download the PDFs, they join the online programs, they buy the books, they make the folders, but weeks pass and nothing really changes. Others begin a new playlist with excitement and then disappear after a few lessons. And before they realize it, years have passed. And yet that feeling of emptiness still remains. Because seeking knowledge is not built on inspiration alone. It's built on consistency and discipline. People often say they want to become students of knowledge. But I think many people really only love the idea of it. Because if you really look at the life of a serious student of knowledge behind the scenes, it's difficult. Long hours of being alone, the pain of sitting in a gathering until your knees ache, years of study and revision, repeating the same thing over and over again until you memorize it. Constant sacrifice. You're fighting distractions all the time, fighting laziness, fighting your own desires. And perhaps that's why many people never truly begin. Because many people love the idea of seeking knowledge. And in the modern world, that battle is harder than ever before. Because everything around you is competing for your attention. Your phone, social media, entertainment, endless scrolling. And before you know it, years pass by and you still haven't seriously started. I remember something that really struck me. I heard many years ago, one of the scholars said, knowledge is something that will not give you a part of itself until you give it your all, until you give it everything that you have. And that's true. Knowledge demands your time, your focus, your consistency, your sincerity. This is not a path built on hype. It's built on repetition. Reviewing the same lesson again and again. Correcting yourself again and again. And honestly, one of the biggest shocks for many students is realizing that knowledge doesn't just teach you about Islam. It teaches you about yourself. It exposes your weaknesses, your impatience, your ego, your excuses, your inconsistency. Sufyan al-Thawri, may Allah have mercy on him, said, I've not wrestled with anything more difficult than my intention. And I think every sincere student eventually understands that statement. Because seeking knowledge is not just an intellectual journey, it's a spiritual battle. You can memorize information and still lose your sincerity. You can learn Arabic and still struggle with your character. You can speak about Islam while privately struggling to act upon it yourself. And that's humbling. As somebody who accepted Islam and later traveled to Medina to study, I can honestly tell you that seeking knowledge changes your entire life. When I first started, I imagined knowledge was mainly about learning information, books, Hadith, Arabic. Over time, I realized the real journey was learning humility, patience, discipline, consistency. There were days of motivation, but also many days of struggle. Days when studying felt heavy, days when revision was difficult, days when you realize how little you actually know. And perhaps that is one of the great lessons knowledge gives you. The more you learn, the more you realize your need for Allah. I think one of the biggest misunderstandings today is that people think seeking knowledge means consuming Islamic content. It doesn't. Watching reminders all day is not the same as systematically learning your religion. Real learning requires structure, foundations, teachers, mentors, revision, patience. The scholars used to travel for months just to hear a single hadith. Today we have access to thousands of hours of beneficial lessons from our homes, and we still struggle to remain consistent. That should make us reflect. And the truth is that this path changes your entire relationship with time. You begin realizing how valuable your hours are. You become more protective over your attention. Because eventually you understand that whatever constantly enters your heart shapes who you become. Ibn al-Jawzi, may Allah have mercy on him, said, beware of procrastination, for it is the greatest of Iblis's soldiers. And honestly, procrastination destroys so many people. I'll start later. I'll get serious next year. I just need life to calm down first. But life never really calms down. There will always be distractions, there will always be responsibilities, and there will always be excuses. At some point, you simply have to begin, even if it's small. One lesson a day, one page a day, one step at a time. Because consistency matters more than intensity. The Prophet ﷺ said, the most beloved deeds to Allah are those done consistently, even if they're small. And I genuinely believe that applies to seeking knowledge more than almost anything else. Not everyone will become a scholar, but every Muslim should know their religion properly. Every Muslim should know how to worship Allah correctly, how to seek Allah's protection for their family, how to distinguish truth from falsehood, especially in a time of confusion. Because today people are drowning in opinions. Everybody is speaking, everybody is debating, everybody has a platform. But very few people are deeply grounded. And that grounding only comes through knowledge, slowly, patiently, over the years. And yes, this path has sacrifices. Your habits may change. Your friendships may change. Your priorities may change. But perhaps that's the point. Because knowledge is meant to transform you, not just to inform you. So the question is not, do you enjoy Islamic videos? The real question is, do you truly want to become a student of knowledge? Because if you do, then start properly and keep on going. Because every scholar, every teacher, every serious student of knowledge once started with a single lesson.